Good morning. Navigating the Death Star here, using the Force down this narrow driveway. So, real quick this morning, random thought, I could have peppered this into the Sunday night chat, but I got an idea for the Sunday night chat this week that might be a little much for you. This is about people talking, about what they could do, or down talking something, or pumping themselves up, I suppose. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but I did a whole bunch of videos on the barefoot shoe movement. And those of you who are here, who follow the channel, know I became friends with a guy who makes custom boots. It's a company called Broadwinger. It's not a company. It's like me saying Mike Z Design. It's just me. And so this guy, Chris, is the sole proprietor of Broadwinger Boots. And Chris had foot issues, which led him down the road of teaching himself how to make his own shoes. And he got really into it. He got into the science of it. And he's really, really big on the barefoot aspect of the shoes. However, he got to the point where he was making a pretty rugged version, and he's using real thick bison hide, but he does prefer to keep his soles thinner and all that. If you don't know barefoot, it's the closest thing to being barefoot, but you still have your feet protected by something, right? So you want a thin sole, zero rise, meaning there's no heel rise whatsoever. The thickness of that sole is straight right across. There's no arch support, none of that. It's and a wide toe box, which typically it's actually probably wider than your toes really are. It's what it does is it allows your toes to splay out, like when you get down in a crouch position and that sort of thing, or you're hiking and you're going down a hill. It allows your feet to move a little bit. And his thing that he had to come up with was a last. So all boots, all shoes are made on what's called a last. Last is a very short word that's totally non-descriptive of what it really is. Like, people hear that term, they might not understand it. But what a last is a mold. It's a mold of a foot, basically. The funny thing is that shoes that you buy off the shelf typically are made, there's a lot of different types of lasts. Once you get into this, you start looking into it, it's kooky. The funny thing is I've never seen a single last, and I've done a lot of research, that looks like my foot, and that's the problem. So if you have back issues, lower back issues, leg issues, knee issues, that sort, foot issues, flat feet, but you find that when you're barefoot, it alleviates the issues, like you have less pain. Well, that's why, right? We're designed, the human body was designed to be walking around barefoot. There's 26 bones in one of your feet. Your feet are designed to manipulate over uneven terrain. And when that's happening, that's sending a message to your brain, and then your brain, without you ever having to think about it, sends all the other messages to the rest of your body to keep yourself upright. We're also supposed to be connected to the earth, right? Because we create electricity. We're supposed to be grounded to the earth. And that's what also makes you healthier and less susceptible to disease and being sick and all of it. All the sickness that we're seeing, obesity and everything else, it's our food. We're eating too much processed food. We're eating too much food. And we're not getting enough exercise. And we're not grounding ourselves. And we're not walking around barefoot. That's it. If you walked around barefoot on the earth, and ate real food and prepared your own meals and got exercise and ate less food, you would likely alleviate so many of your health issues. Simple stuff. Get some rest, cut the stress out of your life, all that good stuff. Anyhow, what Chris did is, Chris hides this. It's a secret. He's not going to show you how he makes a last. Of course, in this day and age, I think we're getting very close to the point where it's going to be easy to just 3D print your feet. One-to-one. I think you're going to be able to do that. You probably do it right now. It probably just isn't easy or cost-effective I don't know, but I think that that's going to be really the way to do it, is to, you know, get your feet on something that's right, that shows them correct, and so you 3D print them, and then boom, you're golden. That's going to change things. But that's Chris's thing. He comes up with a last. And the way he does that, he has a very specific way to measure your feet. And he will absolutely, and you're going to have to do this, because I thought I could do it without it, but I had to do it with him. He's going to want to do like a FaceTime video with you. Facebook Messenger, whatever works. He's going to want to do that. So he could watch. He's going to tell you, no, move that tape measure this way. You know, pinch this tape measure this way. Hold this with your thumbnail there. Trace your foot with this specific sort of tool that he came up with that gives a correct outline of your foot without the pencil moving. Like, he's working it to the 16th of an inch. It's pretty wild. And that's a lot of work. So just making the last for him is a lot of work. However, once he has your last, if you want a second pair of boots, they're going to be a little less money from him. Which the money is what we get into now, right? His prices are like $1,400 a pair right now. And that's dependent upon any of the special details you might want. And me, you know, I'm the crazy person. I'm coming up with all kinds of ideas that he hadn't done before that he's now doing, that it's cool. And I'm actually going to be sending my first pair back to him to have them rebuilt. He's going to redo the upper, the whole, I forget what the terms are. The vamp, the part that's over your toes, he's going to redo that all on my dark brown pair, and I'm getting rid of the smooth toe protector. And I'm going to go with what we did on the tan pair, where he's going to reinforce the toe from the inside, so it's just going to be the rough out dark brown leather all the way down the toe. That's going to make me happier. And that pair is going to have a thicker sole. And we've discussed it. It goes against the grain with what, to a degree, what barefoot shoes are all about. However, the whole reason I went to Chris was I needed a heavy-duty pair of work boots that were barefoot. So, I've never said to you, buy Chris's boots. I've only showed you and talked about them in a positive way because I love them and they've changed my life. That's it. If you want to get into the barefoot thing, then I recommend you go out and just buy some inexpensive or affordable to you, depending on your budget, barefoot shoes so you can get used to it. Because the thing is it's not easy to get used to this sort of thing. You can't just put on, if you've never done it before, if you try to put on a pair of barefoot shoes and go for a hike or something, you can damage yourself. Like, I had an Achilles issue for a bit. You could really screw your body up. Your body has to get used to it. If you're barefoot and you're walking around on the grass or the beach, that's different. But if you're on like pavement all the time, and like normal people walk around the city or your little town or whatever, and you're trying to do that in barefoot shoes at first, you got to do that in small increments. Also, you have to relearn how to walk. Sounds crazy, but we as humans were never designed to heel strike. That all came about from what they call trainers, and the way that people alleviated a lot of other issues coming up, I gotta take this door apart, was heels. All right, the heels came into place, and heels came into place for different reasons, for riding horses and solving certain people's problems because they weren't as fit. That's a whole history of footwear I don't need to get into. The point I want to get into here, as I take you inside and put you on a tripod while I set up the shop, as I still talk about this, is this. So I had this from a few people now, and this one guy in particular. Hang on a second, I'll make sure I'm out enough for you so you're not too close to my face. This one guy in particular was on me about the price, like $1,400. You could have a pair of shoes, barefoot boots for $500 or less. And yeah, but you are comparing apples to oranges. You're not comparing apples to apples. But what he said was, and I thought it was interesting because other people have said this to me in the past, like they'll just make their own. And I've had this happen to me before, where somebody will say, I'll just make that. I'll give you an example. So years ago, I posted something on social media about, it was this bench I made, this rocket bench. You guys may have seen it. I'll try to remember to insert some pictures. Matter of fact, I'll just do that right now. I'll insert a couple snapshots right now so you know what I'm talking about. So this is the bench. And you guys can kind of see what's going on here. I've described this in another recent video. But, you know, it looks like it's floating. The top looks like it's floating off the legs. It looks very thin on the edge because I chamfered that. But when you look underneath, you can see how thick this really is. And then I winged it up on the ends. And this shape, you can tell, it cups your bottom, so it's very, very comfortable. I've got the butterflies in there. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I had correspondence with this guy, Vladimir Kagan. I had already made these benches. I wasn't super familiar with him, but it is Kagan-esque in a bit. It's got that mid-century vibe. Some people described it as like a surfboard shape. And I'm very pleased with this. This is in walnut. And yeah, I also made the bed in here, which we went over that another time. So, but yeah, that's the bench that this one particular guy thought, hey, I could make that. And you could do this, but it ain't easy. So now you've seen that. Some guy saw it and he made a comment. He said, oh, dude, really cool. I think I can do that. I'm going to copy your design. I'm going to make one. And my response to that was, dude, please do that. By the way, this is a 24-inch Schwinn frame. It was a straight bar. Somebody removed the straight bar. It looks like they had an engine mounted in it at one time. And I now have 26-inch tires on this. You want this thing? Hit me up, man. So I said to the guy, I said, please, man, make the bench. I want to see what you come up with. And something like 6 months or so went by, and I saw that post again. And I reached out to him. I said, so how did it turn out? I want to see the bench. You talked a lot of smack about it. And, like being able to do it. And he wasn't trying to be mean-spirited or anything. He really thought he could do it. And then when I asked him about it, he said, dude, I sat down, I actually thought about it, and I looked at your bench, and I really studied it, and I realized it was beyond my ability. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I still encouraged him. I said, you should try. You should at least try your own version. Don't stop because of that. But so this is what happened recently with these boots, and I've been back and forth with this guy, and I mean it in a nice way. His first note to me seemed a little off, and I wasn't sure about him, but I responded to his comment. It was like a paragraph, and now we've been responding to one another. It's one of my Barefoot videos. I'll try to remember to put a link to this particular video in the bottom of this one here, so you guys can follow along with that thread between he and I, if you find this interesting. Because he said he was going to make a pair. And the point I want to make about the whole thing is this: it's not about you being able to make a pair or not being able to make a pair. I believe the majority of you watching me right now, if you put your minds to it, could absolutely make yourself a pair of custom shoes. A pair of boots, a pair of these Broadwingers. You could do it. I'll show you real quick. I love them. I hope that's all in camera. So they've just changed my life, man, honestly. So yes, I think you could do it. I think you could probably do it. But what you're not thinking about is the time. I talked about it recently with the solar generator, with IceCo, with what they sent me. In the video, I discussed how people talk about building an electrical system in their vehicles, and they're like, I could do that for less money than buying the battery pack generators, right? Jackery, whatever. What's your time worth? What's the learning curve involved with that? How long is that really going to take you? And of course, there's the other thing where now it's bolted in your vehicle. So like to get it out of there, that's going to be a hassle. So when the vehicle eventually breaks down or rots out or whatever, it's a lot versus just grabbing this thing and going. So when it comes to the shoe thing, $1,400 is not inexpensive. I get that. But you know, if you don't already even just have a bench to work at, and the basic tools, you're gonna have to get those tools. And are you gonna learn? Like, make it what about a last? You have to make your foot. Again, if you can 3D print your foot, that's cool. So you got to carve something up. You got to shape something up for your foot so you can stretch this leather over properly. There's a lot to know. You can learn it all from YouTube. So you're going to invest countless hours before you even start working with your hands and just wrapping your mind around the process. Then you're going to buy some tools, and then you're going to get the materials, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to screw up. So you're going to need more materials. And then what are the odds you're going to really nail it the first time? You might get it. You might get it. If you're a guy like me, like the first time I made a custom watch band, I friggin' nailed it, man. So I believe I could do it. My friend Chad and I had been planning to make our own boots. Chad's already started. He's got different projects going all the time. And then I found Chris with Broadwinger on Instagram, and we started chatting, and we just worked it out, and that was it. And I'm happy because it's easier. Measure my foot, give him the money, and I get it. I got 2 minutes. That's the other thing. Do you have the time? What are you doing with your time? If you're an older person, you're retired, maybe you have the time. You should do that. So anyhow, he's cool. The guy, his last response to me was another, like we've been getting now, it's like multi-paragraph responses to one another. And he said he's made all these other things. He works on his car. And so I realized, like, he's like me. He's like Chris. He's like Chad. So he probably does have the ability to do it. He said he made a coat before and all these other things. So that's cool. I'm still encouraging him to do it. But I'm just pointing out what to me seems obvious. I design and build things for a living. This is what I do. My time, I know what my time is worth. I rarely get it. Okay. It's a whole other discussion about where we're at these days. I'm not charging anybody enough money based on my skill level. It's kind of a problem. I got to rectify that, but it's still hard for me to wrap my mind around the numbers that people are getting, and I know what people get paid, $180 an hour, $200 an hour, and then I look at their work and I'm like, well, okay, you know, if I'm comparing, I'm thinking, and it's not me being a big ego. It's the only reason I'm thinking about it now is because other people have been telling me this for quite some time, and this past year that's been really hitting me. Other people are hitting me up with, dude, you should be, what are you doing? So I'm just trying to come to grips with that because it just sounds so crazy. But anyhow, I'm just saying, you know, this is a little bit of a history with the Barefoot shoes, and my suggestion to you is this. There are these Ranger boots coming out of South Africa. They look pretty good too. People have been recommending them to me. They're not as robust as the Broadwingers. I can tell. I looked at them. I've watched the Rose Anvil videos on them. I've seen the interviews with the guy that owns the company, the Jim Green boots. And I like the guy. I like the concept. I'm not actually too jazzed of the design, aesthetically speaking. It's not bad. It's just, they're affordable, very affordable. So at some point, I can see myself buying a pair, mostly for you guys. I figure I can get a pair and review them. Since I've done so many videos on the Barefoot sandals and different shoes, and my process of going through different old school sneakers, trying to find the widest ones I could, and eventually getting to the Broadwingers. I don't need anything else now. But I do want a sneaker. I bought a pair of Keens. You saw me wearing them when my friend was in town and we were riding bikes down at the beach. I don't like the look of them that much either. I wish Keds or somebody told me Vans makes a wide version. I have not looked into that yet, but I wish Vans or Keds or Converse. I think Converse has a pair, but they're not easy to find. But if I could find a wide toe box sneaker that had that classic styling from one of those companies, that would make me happy. And they'd be smart for them to do that, because this is a thing now. We all know that. Now, my friend who was here, she has narrow feet, so you could see it. So she could wear Vans and everything else. She doesn't have any problems with that. A lot of people are made that way, but a lot of us have wider feet. So please cater to us. The problem is, like, when I've tried to buy boots in wide, the whole inside of the shoe is much bigger. It's not like they just widen the toe. They made everything bigger on the inside. It's like they think wide, the whole foot is much larger. No. It's not getting any higher. It's just wider. So that's a problem. But I figure with the sneakers, they could probably pull that off. I wish they would. If you guys know about that, put links in the comments below, because I'd like to try them out. I'm not into the new styling. Everything looks like you need a friggin' spacesuit to go along with the shoes. It's like classic old school stuff. Old school. I've told this before, but it's just a funny story. When my van was getting worked on over there at Hooper's Rear Ends, never go there. They totally screwed my van up, and I wasted $3,000 with them and a bunch of time. But I walked and I took public transportation to get out to Sun Valley to pick the van up twice, because they couldn't get it right the first time or the second time. Don't get me on that one again. So the first time I just did the bus the whole way. I had to walk to Hollywood, the subway station. I took the subway over to the valley, and then I took a bus. The second time, I took the subway to the valley, and I was going to take the train. And as I was doing that, I walked by this group of black guys, kind of loud and obnoxious and kind of scary, and you could tell they're kind of purposely intimidating people around. So nobody is around them. And in this group of these black guys, there was the one guy who was the older guy. You could tell. He's the silverback, you know. And as I walked by, I had my cutoffs on, I had my Keds on, just a t-shirt, the cap. And as I walk by, I'm looking at my phone, and they start barking at me, you know. And he starts calling me old school. Hey, old school, old school. And I just looked at him. I tried not to laugh, but I guess I kind of cracked a smile, which is bad in a way sometimes, because now you're in it. Now you're in it. I'm a street smart guy. I grew up on the streets. I've been living alone since I was 14. I know how these scenarios can go. But whatever. So I walk past him. Yeah, I'm like 10, 15 feet away. I sit down. I'm the closest person to these guys. Everybody else is keeping a major distance. And this guy, he starts yelling over to me. He goes, "What are you? What are you?" He says, "You ain't white. You got something in you. You got something in you." And I'm looking at him, and I'm trying to like make him realize I don't want to participate in a conversation with you. I got other things on my mind. But he made it so that I couldn't ignore him. If I would have ignored him, that would have been a problem. So I just looked over. I said, "Well, I'm Greek." And he goes, "I knew it." Because you guys might not know the history with Greeks and blacks, especially in the jazz scene and all that in this country, but they get along real well. We got that in us, man. I mean, we're Greek. The history's there, you know. It's like the Italians. So that was funny. And at this moment, I realized, you know what? I don't want to sit here much longer and do this interaction, because it could go sideways. And this train thing was a problem, and I realized I'm just going to get on the bus. So I got to walk by him again. So as I get up and walk by him, this guy's still talking to me, and he looks at me and says, "Well," he says, "You know, you look like you could throw back in the day." And as I walk past him, I say, "I still can," with a smile on my face, and I just kept going. But that's old school sneakers made me think of old school, what these guys were calling me. So it's just navigating the city with these people, you know. These people, I don't mean it that way. I mean anybody out here on the streets. It's pretty crazy. Anyhow, funny little story. So, that's it. That's all I'm saying. If you think you could do it, I encourage you to do it. I do. I really do, because you're gonna, either you're going to succeed or you're not. Now, if you don't, at least you tried, so that's good. If you tried and you didn't succeed, but you're still motivated, now you're going to learn, because you're going to keep trying until you get it right. That's the mindset you should always have, because then you'll be able to master something. Now, you have to calculate all that and make a decision of, is that enough for me? Do I want to put that much time and effort and money into materials and tools and everything else, learning how to do it to get it that good, just for one? Just to do it one time, just to make myself happy. I've done that. I've done that a lot with things. The reason I have all the tools and everything else is because I tried to learn something and I got good at it, and then I get bored with it. I move on to the next thing. It's probably the reason why I'm single. I always like variety. So, you understand what I'm saying? Now, if you put the time in and you fail, but you learn and you stick with it, you master it, now you're in an interesting place, because you now have new skills that you taught yourself. And now you could decide, hey, maybe I can make a little extra money with this. So now you've done a great thing for yourself. So again, I encourage you to always try, because you're going to learn. And you might learn it's not for you. That's fine. You can always sell the stuff that you bought, or pass it down to somebody, your kid, your nephew, your niece, whatever, the guy down the street, the guy across the street, whatever. Make them happy with some cool stuff. You understand where I'm going with this. But always try. If you got an idea in your mind and you think, yeah, I always wanted to do that, well, the only person stopping you from doing it is you. So do it. Get the stuff, give it a shot, go for it. And to the guy, I'm going to send him the link. If you're watching this, I don't know what your name is. I can't even remember what your little moniker is there on the YouTube. But thank you for this, because you gave me an inspiration here to talk about something, because I believe this is an uplifting conversation, because I want everybody to try things. The only reason I got good at what I could do is because I tried. Also, I don't work well with others. So there's a reason why I work alone, man. It's hard. It's hard for me to be. It's rare to have people that are, you could, like Dave and I could probably work together, but there'd be some funny stuff there from time to time, and there is. It is funny. I'm always like, let's just get it done. So it's hard for me being around other people. So I had to figure out a path in life to where I could survive on my own terms, doing things by myself. If you happen to be the same kind of person, then you're hearing a good message now. If I did it, you can do it. So do it. Be good to one another. Help each other out. I'll catch you all in the next one.